Kathy?
Yes.
The laptop just crapped out. It says it's not plugged in, but it is plugged in. I'm trying to go back in again. So hang on.
Did you hear that, Lori? That's the one that's up on the balcony. And it has to do with sound.
Yeah. Okay, let me in. Yeah, it was clearly plugged in, but it says it was born on battery. So hopefully it'll stay on.
Damn, it keeps moving.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our service of the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Barbara Smith, and I serve on our Stewardship Committee. It is wonderful to see you here this morning in the Great Hall and online. Thank you to everyone who's helping to make this happen. If you are new or returning after a time away, we're glad you're here. Feel free to fill out a blue welcome card that I'm sure a couple people will have in the air. And you can put that in the offering plate later. There is also an online version that you'll find through a link in the chat. We'll put you on our mailing list, our email list, so you can receive information about all our activities. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that we here in Northampton inhabit unceded land of the Pecumtuck and Nipmuc peoples. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. We're here to celebrate, to reflect, and to support one another in sustaining hope and upholding our values. If you are on Zoom, we ask that you please keep your videos off except during the greeting. And if you're in the Great Hall, thank you for wearing a mask. After the service, anyone with children in their lives is invited to join a discussion on how to raise an anti-racist from 11:15 to 12:30 in the parlor behind me. And now we'll begin our service.
It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we have come to our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. Now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in saying the words to accompany lighting our chalice. With the kindling of our flame, we recognize the fragility of life and our own vulnerability. May the light remind us of the hope that can bloom as we find our way forward together. And now we'll remain standing for our first hymn. Our story this morning, we're going back to one of my tried and true favorites, Arnold Lobel. This is from Frog and Toad Together, Giants and Dragons. Frog and Toad were reading a book together. The people in this book are brave, said Toad. They fight dragons and giants and they are never afraid. I wonder if we are brave, said Frog. They looked into a mirror. We look brave, said Frog. Yes, but are we? Asked Toad. Frog and Toad went outside. We can try to climb this mountain, said Frog. That should tell us if we're brave. Frog went leaping over rocks and Toad came puffing up behind him. They came to a dark cave. A big snake came out of the cave. Hello, lunch, said the snake. When he saw Frog and Toad, he opened his wide mouth and looked at them with his evil eye. Frog and Toad jumped away. Toad was shaking. I am not afraid, he cried. They climbed higher and higher. They heard a loud noise. Many large stones were rolling down the mountain. It's an avalanche, cried Toad. Frog and Toad jumped away. Frog was trembling. I am not afraid, he shouted. They came to the top of the mountain. The shadow of a hawk fell over them. Frog and Toad jumped under a rock, and the hawk flew away. We are not afraid, screamed Frog and Toad at the same time. They ran down the mountain very fast. They ran past the place where they saw the avalanche. They ran past the place where they saw the snake. They ran all the way to Toad's house. Frog, I'm glad to have a brave friend like you, said Toad. He jumped into the bed and pulled the covers over his head. And I am happy to know a brave person like you, Toad, said Frog. He jumped into the closet and shut the door. Toad stayed in the bed, and Frog stayed in the closet. They stayed there for a long time, just feeling brave together. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 1012, When I Am Frightened. And now it's time, I know I keep telling you, you have to keep standing up. It's time for us to greet one another. We'll start by greeting everyone on Zoom. Hello, everyone on Zoom. You can turn on your videos if you're on Zoom and greet us, and then greet one another. Good morning, Rick. All our Zoom people are on screens this morning. Hi, Marlisa, good to see you. Sally, Laura, hey, Peg. Hi, Robbie, good to see you. And Sue and Georgia, Chris. Hi, Janet. I'm talking about you later. Hi, Sally. Karen, good to see you. Hi, Fran. Hi, Sherry. Gail, John, it's always a joy to see you. Abby and Mark, Andrea, Jan, Elizabeth, hi, how are you? Who else is there? Larry's Zoom training today. Ellie Smith, Cheryl, Lucy B, maybe Camel is there too. Hi, Jean, I know you're coming sometime. Mary, Amy, and maybe Linda's there too. Hi, Nancy. Sitting in a Portland hospital. What are you doing there? Oh, your sister-in-law. Okay. Hope she does well. Jan, nice to have everybody with us. Where's the thing? Can you tell we're trying to ring the bell more gently? Some people don't like that bell. And now it's time for everyone leaving us. By the way, it is such a joy to have Greg back in the saddle here, joining us this morning. So welcome, Greg. You probably weren't organized enough to put your name in the order of meeting. We're sorry. It's on the slides. And now it's time for everyone who's going to religious education activities to leave us, and we will sing you out. Our first reading is William Yeats' The Second Coming. The Second Coming is one of the best known poems written by William Butler Yeats, and he wrote it shortly after the end of the First World War, which had shaken Europe with its brutality and which was accompanied by the fall of empires in Austria-Hungary, in Germany, in Russia, as well as with the end of the Ottoman Empire, which had been ruled from Turkey. And closer home, for Yeats, the Irish independence movement was waging a guerrilla war against British rule. Those were, for Yeats and many people, dark times. And the first verse of his poem gives us this image of chaos as well as a sense of helplessness and despair. It's also a poem of apocalypse, not the Christian kind, but something else ominous and mysterious. And it's a poem without answers. So this is Yeats' The Second Coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming, hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in the sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it reel shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle, and what rough beast, its hour comes round at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laurie Loisel, and along with Steve Kramer, I am co-moderator of the Coordinating Council. The coordinating, and this is a Social Justice Minute. The Coordinating Council this year discussed ways we might work with the UUA wide proposed 8th principle dedicated to dismantling racism and white supremacy. One idea we came up with is to deepen our relationship with the organizations we support in the Share the Plate donation program. We see this as a way to engage more fully with these social justice organizations, which are working hard to dismantle white supremacy and end racism. This engagement can be at the level of volunteering or learning more about the organizations and spreading the word about their work, or participating in events they sponsor. In our effort to walk alongside these social justice organizations, we invite USNF members and friends to learn more and consider how you might engage with them beyond dropping money in the plate on Sundays. Here's a rundown of our spring 2023 Share the Plate recipients. MANA is a Northampton-based community meals program, serving hot meals 6 days a week out of the Edwards and St. John's churches to people who are unhoused or food insecure. Volunteers are needed to help prepare meals, serve meals, clean up from meals, deliver meals to people who can't get to the meal sites. Volunteer shifts run about 3 hours and are daily except Sundays. Meal delivery duties can generally be done in about an hour. You can learn more at mananorthampton.org. Okito, is a local organization dedicated to creating safe, rewarding, and enriching experiences for the Indigenous community in the region, including cultural workshops, dance, music, art, indoor and outdoor activities that allows participants the opportunity to fully express their talents. You can learn more at okito.org. Homework House is a Holyoke organization supporting educational success by providing free tutoring and mentoring for children living in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. Homework House provides a safe and nurturing place for children to grow and learn and support their families as well. There are plans afoot to field a USNF team at the Homework House fundraising spelling bee on April 27th. You could consider being part of that team or showing up to support the team, or you can volunteer as a tutor. Embrace Race is an Amherst-based racial justice organization that works to gather resources and educate people about raising children in a world where race matters. Embrace Race relies on volunteers for a variety of tasks, including research, outreach, storytelling, interviewing, community building, and fundraising. To learn more about Embrace Race, visit embracerace.org.
Thank you, Lori. And an organization that we supported the last time is the Performance Project in Springfield, which is an arts program for youth in Springfield. And we received 2 lovely thank you notes that are on the bulletin board out there from two of the youth participants in that organization. And they have performances. So another way to support the Performance Project is to actually look on their website and consider going to one of their performances or some of their performances. As Lori mentioned, we share the proceeds of our Sunday offerings every week. 50% goes to support the work of this congregation inside, and 50% goes to the organizations that we choose to support, 2 sets of them twice a year. And so our generosity really does make a difference every week. And this morning's offering will now be given and very gratefully received. We're having a little bit of a Wendell Berry morning. This is a poem that I know is familiar to many of you. It's his The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the green heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Let's rest in silence together. Harriet Diamond, many of you know, is an artist and a member of this congregation whose installation, called The Maelstrom, was recently at a gallery in East Hampton. And I wish that Harriet could be with us today. She could have read her own reflection, but she and Bill are in Cuba on a travel adventure. And so Harriet graciously gave me permission to share pictures of her work as well as parts of her artist's statement about it. So we're gonna see the pictures. Harriet wrote this: "The maelstrom is a scary place born out of my personal fear of death and magnified and confirmed by the existential threat of climate change. Though I must reconcile myself to my own mortality, it will always be beyond my nature to accept the imminent death of our species. This is what starts my maelstrom spinning." Could show the next picture. In the maelstrom, you'll find picnickers and people floating on a dark sea, contemplating the heavens with awe. You'll also see a frustrated modern human perched on a crumbling cement edifice, screaming, "It isn't fair." Could show another picture there. There he is. Some people are saving their children. Some are helping strangers. Some are despairing. There are folks bailing out a swampling boat and a guy fixing the outboard. And of course, the major question is what to hold on to. Is there something to grasp onto that's truly rooted? James Baldwin's simple quote settles me, and I think it points a way. He wrote, "The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us, and the light goes out." Our next hymn is number 317 in the Teal hymnal, "We Are Not Our Own." Gray, sorry. Gray, teal, gray. If it's in the thousands, it's in the teal. If it's not, it's in this. Fruit of There are many things about which it makes sense to be afraid. Rock slides, raptors, and snakes, for example, if you happen to be a small creature, like a frog or a toad. Humans have other fears. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide loosened, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence drowned. We have fears that come when we feel that things are falling apart, when we look at the overwhelming problems and challenges all around the globe. The climate crisis, the effects of centuries of racism, enslavement, and colonial oppression, threats to democracy, the political climate, the climate of what to call it, the climate of hate and divisiveness, the insidious effects of social media on our children, on ourselves, and on civil discourse, the rise and the degradation of women. You can make your own list. It could go on and on and on. There are enough problems and challenges to make anyone want to hide in the closet or under the bed covers, with or without a friend. So where can and do we find what we need at times, whether it's comfort or new perspectives or a call to action or relief or just a wake up that we need to get up out of bed or out of the closet, if only for the sake of our spiritual well-being. So one place to find those things is in the arts, in music, in poetry, in all the visual arts, in films and novels and plays and stories. The arts enrich us and broaden us and challenge us. One of the novels that I've recently discovered is Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. All that you touch is change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. Embrace change. Shape change. God is change. You know, those are the central tenets of a religion called Earthseed, which is a religion that was invented by Butler's protagonist. She is the 15-year-old Lauren Olamina, who is a Black girl living with her family in a city just south of Los Angeles. The year is 2024. Now, Butler's novel was published 30 years ago in 1993. It was acclaimed when it appeared, and then there has been a resurgence of interest in it, and particularly in Butler's ideas in the past, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years. In 2017, a New Yorker writer named Abby Aguirre described the setting of the novel like this. She says, "Global warming has brought drought and rising seawater. The middle class and working poor live in gated neighborhoods where they fend off the homeless with guns and walls. Fresh water is scarce, as valuable as money. Pharmaceutical companies have created smart drugs which boost mental performance, and pyro, which is a pill that gives those who take it sexual pleasure from arson. Fires are common. Police services are expensive, though few trust the police. Public schools are being or have been privatized, as are being and have whole towns." And in this dystopia that Butler has created, overt racism is absolutely everywhere. Jobs are scarce also, good jobs almost non-existent, and the gap between the rich and everyone else has just become enormous. The best that some hope for is to land work on a rich person's well-guarded compound somewhere out in the countryside. It's very dangerous outside the walls of Lauren's neighborhood, and her father is a Baptist preacher who still has a paid teaching job at a local college. He's one of the few in their neighborhood who actually still goes out beyond the walls alone. Lauren's family helps keep their neighborhood community together. Her stepmother teaches a one-room school in their living room. People in the neighborhood grow their own food. They grind acorns for flour. Everyone is trained on survival skills, and older children, maybe when they turn 11 or 12, learn how to use guns. So that's basically the setting. And one night the wall is breached, the neighborhood is destroyed by a marauding, drug-crazed band of arsonists and the looters who follow them. Most of Lauren's family and neighbors are killed. And she and a few others escape, and they start a trek north. She's determined to survive. She grows a small band of followers, and her plan is to plant earthseed communities of people determined to survive together. It's a very chilling picture. And the 1998 sequel, which is called Parable of the Talents, the US has elected a president who has run on a platform, so she wrote this in 1998, run on a platform of ultra-right Christian supremacy and the promise to make America great again. 1998. The author, who died in 2006, said of that book, "This was not about prophecy. It was a cautionary tale, although people have told me it was prophecy. All I have to say to that is, I certainly hope not." So again, back in 2017, shortly after a real-life version of that president moved into the Oval Office for real, that New Yorker writer, Aguirre, wrote, "In the early 90s, Butler extrapolated her vision of a near-future dystopia from what she read in the news. She became the first science fiction writer to be awarded a MacArthur Fellowship. And she had hoped that the grant would enable her to finish 4 more books in that series that she had planned for that Parable series. But according to Aguirre, Butler found that the story was too depressing and turned to other work. It's worth reading. Earthseed believers form communities where people share resources and talents, where they protect themselves and one another, and eventually prepare to plant colonies elsewhere in the solar system. Late in the 21st century, the first spaceship leaves for a planet beyond our solar system, its passengers frozen in suspended animation, and Lauren lives just long enough to see it go. So what do you think? Do humans have to leave the planet in order to save themselves? Do we have to leave in order to save the planet? I know that several of you, anyway, have read Kim Stanley Robinson's 2020 book, The Ministry for the Future. And that book is described as a climate crisis sci-fi future novel that actually offers hope. It too begins in the middle of this decade. I think it begins in 2025, with a heat wave in India that kills millions of people. And that ministry is an international group with a mandate that came from the Paris Climate Agreement to advocate for the world's future generations of citizens and creatures. And the staff, it's based in Zurich, and the staff includes professionals from all different countries. They're lawyers, economists, ecologists, scientists, earth, ocean, and atmospheric scientists, disaster and refugee specialists, and experts in artificial intelligence. And so the novel charts the work of these leaders and their teams trying various climate mitigation efforts. And there's also a little bit of personal drama, and then he sticks in a tiny love story at the end, which I think is his reward for Mary, who is the beleaguered head of the ministry. That ministry for the future is as fictional as Earthseed's pilot trip into space. In it, Problems get addressed through the persistent efforts of people who work to persuade governments to allow some of their agencies to work together. International cooperation and big system changes. It's a dream not of utopia, but of powerful people who come to a gradual recognition and willingness to reckon with the realities of the climate crisis. And this is an oversimplification, but those two novels seem to me to present very different views on addressing our present and looming crisis. Butler's vision is of small communities of people who band together, form a network with other communities, and they work outside the structure of government and corporate powers. Robinson's vision is one that enlists those structures and powers. And I suspect we need both. But it's fiction. How might any of this help when fear for the future and dread of the present overtake us? Harriet asks, what can we grasp and hold on to? When despair for the world grows in me and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. The wild still exists. And we can turn off the news and put down our phones and remind ourselves to seek it out and notice it and rest in its peace and beauty. Let it hold us and heal us for a time. And from time to time, it may help to take a long view that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. And as John McPhee has written, geologists live with geologic scale. If you spread your arms wide to represent all time on Earth, and you look at one hand, the Cambrian begins at the wrist. That was 544 million years ago. So this is Earth time. Here's the Cambrian 544 million years ago. He says all of the Cenozoic, 65 million years ago, from the death of the dinosaurs and the ammonites, is a fingerprint. And in a single stroke with a medium-grained nail file, you could eradicate human history. Not the whole nail, just one stroke. You could eradicate all of human history. The only lasting thing is change, and the Earth will remain for a very long time. The shapes that beauty takes will change, but beauty will endure. It's actually a point of faith for me that beauty is built into the system. It may be the reason we exist. And I have to remind myself to look to younger people who have different ways of seeing and are finding new ways. One of them is a Black activist named Adrienne Marie Brown, who has been inspired, one of the people who's been inspired by ideas from Butler and others, and has coined the term emergent strategy for a collaborative, generative approach to responding both to crises that threaten to overwhelm us and to smaller issues and opportunities. And Brown wrote this. She said, even our smallest acts of integrity grow our collective capacity to live our visions into reality. Even our smallest acts of integrity grow our collective capacity to live our visions into reality. Janet Clark spoke to us again last Sunday about the impacts of climate change, and she reminded us that mining and burning coal, oil, and gas cause some of the extreme weather and habitat loss, and that some of the powerhouses of the economy, major banks, invest heavily in those industries, coal, oil, and gas. And she encouraged us to change banks and or get a different credit card if we're currently patronizing one of the major funders of those industries. And I'm also going to mention there will be a demonstration starting at Pulaski Park at 4:30 p.m. next Tuesday on March 21st, proceeding to the intersection of Pleasant and King Street. Some of the people in our climate action group are leaders in that. I think Eric Broadbent is back there. He's one of those leaders. Chase is planning to open at that intersection of Pleasant, King, and Main Street. And Chase is the largest funder of fossil fuels. So Booker and I have had our United Airlines Visa card for, I don't know, close to 40 years, I think. We got it when we were still flying once or twice a year to visit his parents in California. And it is a Chase card. So it is time for us to embrace change, and we're in the process of working on getting a new card. How much difference will that make? What can we hold on to? I'm holding on to what Adrienne Marie Brown has said. Even our smallest acts of integrity grow our collective capacity to live our visions into reality. And I hope you too might be able to take that to heart when you're feeling utterly despairing, when you think that your own small efforts can't possibly matter. Think of what you are doing as small acts of integrity. Think of them as shaping change, and do them in a spirit of kindness. It will be good for your soul. We will continue to keep faith with one another and continue to learn and grow. And I'll bring us back once more to Wendell Berry. From what the reading we started the service with, it may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we have come to our real journey. I hope we find our own ways to do that real work with integrity and hope, and that we companion one another. We continue to companion one another on that real journey. Our final hymn is number 21 in this book, For the Beauty of the Earth. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing.
For the
Our final words are from another inspiring young person, Amanda Gorman. All of us bring light to exciting solutions never tried before, for it is our hope that implores us at our uncompromising core to keep rising up for an earth more than worth fighting for. Go in peace.